Dakar. Promoting dialogue. It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Niamey. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. African Democracy Forum kicks off in Dakar, Senegal, as delegates examine civic engagement and governance challenges.
West Africa and Central Africa are still mostly dominated by autocratic regimes. Wherever civil society is weak, the likelihood of democracy is very minimal.
Nigerian President Bola Tinubu rallies African unity to end foreign exploitation of its mineral resources. Burkina Faso cracks down on religious leaders, suspends association accused of undermining peaceful coexistence. Sierra Leone civil society threatens nationwide protest over rising fuel prices.
We have to do our sensitization. We use our placards, move to government parastatals, especially Petroleum Regulatory Commission. We need them.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for being with us. We begin right here in Dakar, Senegal, where civil society leaders, researchers, and policymakers from across the continent are meeting for the third African Democracy Forum. Discussions are focused on how citizens can help shape more accountable and resilient democratic systems. Held under the theme, The Strength of Societies, the forum also examines the role of civic engagement in responding to some of Africa's most pressing governance challenges. These challenges stem from shrinking civic space and declining trust in public institutions, as well as a wave of political transitions across the Sahel. Veronique Njai attended the opening section and now reports.
The forum brings together voices from across Africa to reflect on the state of democracy at a time when many countries are facing growing political, economic and security challenges. Akils Membe is the director of the Innovation Foundation for Democracy based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
West Africa and Central Africa are still mostly dominated by autocratic regimes. I would just highlight examples such as Togo, in Central Africa, almost all those countries, Cameroon, Guinea, Congo, in West Africa, of course, the military regimes in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. And these are not at all examples of liberal societies.
Among the issues dominating discussions is the shrinking civic space. Akils Membe for the comments.
Fact is that wherever civil society is weak, wherever power relations between the state and civil society are in favor of the state, the likelihood of democracy is very, very minimal. That is the case in most countries in West Africa.
An equally important concern is the growing gap between citizens and democratic institutions. Gils Yabi, founder and executive director of the West Africa think tank Wadr, says rebuilding trust must become a priority for governments across the continent.
We need to work on rebuilding our political institutions so that we have trust between the citizens and the institution and people who lead the political institution. Democracy is more about the permanent relationship between the citizen and the institution, and we still need to work with more ambition on sophisticated institutions that deliver and that reflect also the diversity of our countries.
As deliberations continue in Dakar, many hope the forum will generate ideas that help strengthen democratic resilience and promote greater citizen participation across the continent.
Veronique Njai fight that report. Meanwhile, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu is encouraging African countries to move away from exporting raw materials and instead invest in local processing, technology and industries that can create jobs and retain more wealth on the continent. The president made the call while receiving a delegation of the African Minerals Strategy Group at the State House in Abuja. He says Africa must work towards ending the exploitation of its mineral resources and ensure its vast deposits translate into development for its people. Our correspondent Yechenu Sasetu reports.
President Bola Tinubu said says African countries must strengthen cooperation and bargaining power in the global minerals market rather than continue exporting raw materials with little benefit to their economies. According to him, the continent's mineral resources should drive industrialization, create jobs, and improve living standards across Africa.
We should try as much as possible to ensure value addition and prevent Africa from being a mining pit for the rest of the world. We are Siamese twins co-joined by the hips in our geographical ways. So why not utilize that in our research and development and knowledge-based economy to enhance the quality of life and bring prosperity to our people?
The president also calls for greater investment in research, refining, and technology transfer to support local value addition in the mining sector. In his remarks, Chairman of the Africa Minerals Strategy Group, Dele Alake, states that some African countries are already adopting policies that promote local processing and restrict the export of raw materials.
Today, local value addition is reverberating all over Africa. In fact, some of our member countries have gone outrightly to ban the exportation of raw minerals from their countries, and that is where the whole of Africa is moving.
The high-profile meeting was held ahead of the African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit, where ministers and stakeholders are expected to discuss beneficiation and industrialization and cooperation in managing Africa's natural resources. For WADR, Yeche Sasetu in Abuja.
On the diplomatic front, Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye underscores the need for sustained support for countries confronting terrorism while reaffirming Senegal's commitment to dialogue and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. President Faye made the statement following bilateral talks with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Berlin. Discussions are centered on security challenges in the Sahel and strengthening cooperation between West Africa and its international partners. The meeting comes as Senegal prepares to assume the rotating presidency of ECOWAS, a role expected to place the country at the forefront of regional diplomacy, crisis management, and efforts to promote stability across the sub-region. Here is an excerpt of the Senegalese president's speech.
This visit provides an opportunity to consolidate and inject new momentum into this partnership of our national transformation agenda, Vision Senegal 2050. With Chancellor Merz, we discussed ways and means of strengthening our economic and trade relations through investment while ensuring greater involvement of the private sector. German companies have an important role to play in Senegal, particularly as we value the quality of German products and services. Our discussions also cover issues of mutual interest, including the situation in the Sahel and across Africa, where both our countries remain engaged in the fight against terrorism. The peace and stability of our two continents are closely linked. Beyond Africa, threats to global peace and security also stem from areas of tensions and extremism in the Americas, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. It is therefore necessary to work everywhere towards de-escalation, tolerance, and end of hostilities, and to prioritize negotiated solutions to crisis. For a more balanced world order, it is also important to promote more open and inclusive global governance.
Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye speaking after a meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Berlin, Germany.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, elsewhere in Burkina Faso, the authorities have taken another drastic decision against religious associations and leaders. In its latest decision, the government has banned 2 religious leaders from preaching and suspended an association for 3 months. The authorities accuse them of making radical statements likely to undermine social cohesion and peaceful coexistence. Atiawin Mbila completes the story.
In separate decrees, the government prohibits Omar Sankara and Idrissa Sawadogo from carrying out any preaching, religious teaching, or any activities in Burkina Faso until further notice. Authorities accuse both men of making statements that could undermine social harmony and peaceful coexistence. The government has also suspended the religious association known as Tabernacle of the Sons of the Kingdom of the Holy Spirit for an initial period of 3 months, renewable if necessary. Officials say the organization failed to renew its governing bodies and is also facing allegations of moral misconduct and money laundering. The sanctions will be monitored by the Directorate General of Religious, Customary and Traditional Affairs and communicated to key government institutions and regional authorities. The latest action follows the suspension of 2 Islamic civil society organizations earlier this month. According to Burkinabe authorities, the decision reflects a broader effort to tighten regulation of religious activities while maintaining the secular principles enshrined in the country's constitution.
Atiowin Mbila fight that report now to judicial matters. In Guinea, a 5-year prison sentence against Ibrahima Sharif Ba has been upheld by the appeals chambers of the Special Court for Economic and Financial Crimes. The former governor of Guinean Central Bank was found guilty of embezzling more than $10 million. In its ruling, the appeals court confirmed the majority of the sanctions imposed during the first instance of the trial. Sankula Janko tells us more.
In its decision, the appeals chamber of the Special Court for Economic and Financial Crimes, CRIF, confirmed the 5-year prison sentence of Ibrahima Sharif Ba, who is also a member of the main opposition political party, the UFDJ. The CRIF found the former governor of Guinea's central bank guilty of embezzling public funds, illicit enrichment, money laundering, and abuse of office. It also ordered him to pay a fine of 5 billion Guinean francs and to repay the $10.5 million he embezzled. Additionally, Ibrahima Sharif Ba must pay 10 billion Guinean francs in damages to the state as compensation for the harm caused. The appeals chamber ordered the confiscation of all his assets for the benefit of the state and issued an arrest warrant reinforcing the legal measures already taken in the case. The verdict follows several appeal hearings during which the defense lawyers sought to overturn the original judgment.
A report from our Conakry correspondent, Cheno Alpha Ibrahim Ambalde, presented by Sankula Janko. We turn to Sierra Leone because civil society organizations and opposition politicians are threatening nationwide protests over the continuing rise in fuel prices. The Native Consortium and Research Center, a leading citizens advocacy group based in Freetown, has issued the government a 7-day ultimatum to address the situation. Despite a gradual decline in global crude oil prices, the group says the high cost of fuel is driving up transport fares and basic goods prices, placing increasing pressure on households and businesses in the country. Abdullahi Hassan reports.
The latest demand reflects the long-standing frustration among fuel consumers and transport operators regarding fuel prices in Sierra Leone. Currently, the retail price of fuel in Sierra Leone is set at 35 leones per litre. However, civil society groups including consumer organizations and opposition leaders in the country are calling for a reduction in this price. Edward Comey, the Deputy Director of the Consumers Protection Association, voices these concerns.
Right now, as I speak to you, the cost of transportation is so high that the daily movements are really restricted. And whenever fuel is high, all commodities are really increased in prices and the likes. We have to do our sensitization. We use our placards, or move to government parastatals, especially Petroleum Regulatory Commission. We meet them. We talk about this thing you're doing. The consumers are not really all that suitable with them.
Government officials previously defended the current pricing structure, stating that domestic fuel prices are influenced not only by crude oil prices, but also by exchange rates, taxes, and existing stock purchased at earlier rates. Meanwhile, the Consumers Protection Association is urging the government to engage in dialogue to avoid the negative impact of the planned nationwide protests.
In some aspects, it will hamper the work of the government because the government will really going to lose. Right now, as the economy is really scattered, if you look at the inflation today, $100 really costs you over how many thousand leones. So we want to look at it this direction. Let's try and talk.
as at the time of filing this report, neither the government nor the Petroleum Regulatory Authority has responded to the civil society's demands.
Abdullahi Hassan Fight, that report. You are listening to Newslink live on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. African Democracy Forum kicks off in Dakar, Senegal, as delegates examine civic engagement and governance challenges. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu rallies African unity to end foreign exploitation of its mineral resources. Burkina Faso cracks down on religious leaders, suspends association accused of undermining peaceful coexistence. Sierra Leone civil society threatens nationwide protests over rising fuel prices. Still ahead in the news, we have guest interview and a sports update. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thank you for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Now to Liberia, where academic activities have been disrupted in Grambassa County, the central region, after heavy rainfall caused the collapse of a footbridge connecting a university campus to nearby communities. The damage has forced the immediate suspension of classes and leaving students stranded and cutting off access to the institution. The footbridge had served as a vital alternative route after the main Benson River bridge got damaged and remains unattended for years despite repeated government assurances. The latest collapse has renewed concerns over infrastructure challenges affecting education and mobility in the area. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Paco tells us more.
Affected students are urging local and national authorities to fast-track a permanent solution to the damaged bridge connecting the university. They want that prolonged closure of the institution threatens their academic calendar and could keep them out of school for months. The university students expressed their grievances in a petition to the Grambassa County Administration on Tuesday.
Since the destruction of the original bridge leading to the university, students, faculties, and staff have endured years of hardship. Public assurances were given that the problem will soon be resolved. The project remains incomplete, leaving the university community to continue operating under unsafe and difficult conditions.
Receiving their petition, Grambassa County Superintendent Kayu Johnson apologized for the disruption and acknowledged the delays in the bridge project.
We are appealing to you, give this government up to August. And not only that, the procurement process of the pavement of the GDU road is almost at completion. So when the bridge lands, it will not take us a very long time.
At the same time, residents across the Benson River say the situation has worsened mobility, limiting access to Buchanan and essential services. Bill Jimin is a resident of the area.
I think this is a wake-up call for every one of us, including the central government, local government, and community members, to see how we all can together face this breach. People from Painsbury cannot come to Buchanan.
The latest incident has renewed the cause for authorities to fast-track up the bridge project, which has remained incomplete despite years of commitments. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
Well, the guest interview this evening focuses on Ghana, where the government has ordered the revocation of all existing firearm licenses and introduced stricter regulations governing gun ownership. According to authorities, the decision is in response to growing concerns about the misuse of legally acquired weapons, which have resulted in several deaths in some parts of the country. However, reactions are pouring in, particularly from the security sector, regarding the regulations being implemented by the government towards the use and ownership of the firearms. Our guest is Samuel Appiah, a security analyst who provides an analysis of the new measure.
Even though it has taken an incident for us to recognize the kind of lapses and probably loose in the system where people have taken undue advantage on that. So I believe it's a good move. We need to rather, strengthen the processes that will go in to ensure that new systems are going to be in place. Procedures are adhered to strictly. People are obliged to ensure that when you are given the license, you must use the license as it requires of you. Any breach of it should never be countenanced by the state. And so I believe that these directives rather will give a new sense of direction as to how they have to regulate the issuance of these licenses. And after that, how they will monitor. What is mind-boggling is that do people periodically surrender these weapons and also give reports? Because after you've acquired the license, every year you need to give account as to whether the weapon was used and for what purpose was it used, if it was used at all. So these are all the information and the profile that the ministry will need to have vis-a-vis the Small Arms Commission should be able to give very credible data to inform the public. So for me, I think this is in good move.
In the suspension of these licenses to individuals who have weapons, it will require them to, reapply for these licenses? Is that it?
Well, if it will not require that they reapply, then it means the directives will not be effective, because what makes it very cogent is that the people will have to be reassessed, reevaluate, and also consider whether or not they are fit to possess the license and also the weapons. So in my opinion, I think the ministry will give further directives to all those people to come forward for their licenses to be reviewed and for them personally to be assessed. And a lot of questions profiling must be done to either confirm or deny their eligibility to continue possessing those licenses and the weapons. I think it's in that sense it will be very effective.
But can it also backfire in the instance where people who hitherto had registered their licenses and then they have it suspended and they require them to reapply and they do not? Will we not have a number of people having weapons in their hands without the necessary due process being followed?
Well, I must believe that the ministry has data on all the people who have licensed their weapons, except those who have the weapons illegally, and they have not acquired the permits or license. In those cases, it means the ministry will not have any data on those people. So I share the sense that they will definitely be able to trace the number of people who have acquired license to be able to possess this weapon. So if it is suspended, it means the person who received the permit will be communicated to, and you are aware that your data, your file is available, so they'll be able to trace you if you fail to comply with the directives of the ministry. And then also they have to be very strict with those who may have it and they don't have the required permit and authority to possess them, probably strengthening the intelligence collection system so we can profile all of these people to be able to assist them to surrender these weapons. We are talking about public safety here. So I want to believe that the ministry will take into consideration the fact that they want to look at the larger perspective of ensuring safety and security for the citizenry.
Samuel Apia is a Ghanaian security analyst. And now for sports, my colleague Sankule, the sportive Janko, joins me in the studio. Good evening, Sankule.
Good evening, Augustine Coley.
The DRC could not replicate the impressive 1-0 draw against Portugal, could they?
No, they couldn't, because the DRC suffered a 9-1-0 defeat to Colombia in their second group stage match at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. While the Leopards held firm for their much of the contest, with goalkeeper Lionel Mbasi producing several important saves. But Daniel Munoz struck in the 76th minute to hand Colombia the victory and, of course, qualification for the round of 32. Despite the setback, they had Congo's hopes of reaching the knockout stage remain alive ahead of their final match against Uzbekistan.
Now, looking at the energy they put out from start until the goal came, how can you describe how they fought?
They did well. I mean, they fought well, but I still, African teams, one thing I've observed is that there's that lack of clinical finishing. We create a lot of chances, we play, but at the end of that cutting edge is what we are lacking. Our strikers need to be doing, I don't know, they have to do a lot of practice and scoring because we create chances, but we don't take them. I think that's what we also saw again, DR Congo in their game against the Colombian side.
And this is becoming very visible in the FIFA World Cup.
Oh yes, it's becoming very visible, particularly I'm talking specifically for African teams. Create a lot of chances. You will be a witness. We've seen it Senegal against France. We've seen it against Senegal, even in their second game against Norway as well. The likes of Haaland, they're very clinical. The slightest chance they have, they put the ball at the back of the net. But unfortunately for African teams, we need to improve on that aspect.
Now, quickly before we leave DRC, you said that they have a chance?
Yeah, they do have a chance. Of course, they do have a chance.
Looking at the table, they are third on the table in Group K with
a point.
1 point.
Yes, if they win their final game, that is against Uzbekistan, they'll have 4 points. So yes, they'll take a qualification.
Portugal already has 4 points.
Yes, Portugal already have 4 points, but then that is what we call third best place. Finishes. So win against Uzbekistan, so give them another opportunity to be part of those teams that will be among the 32 teams.
Talking about West Africa, Ghana, however, had another successful outing, this time against England. Imagine England.
Yes, indeed, Augustine. Ghana boosted their hopes of reaching the World Cup knockout stage after holding England to a goalless draw in Group L. All the Black Stars produced a disciplined defensive display to earn a valuable point, leaving both sides level on 4 points at the top of the group. Well, Ghana will now look to seal qualification when they face Croatia in their final group match.
Croatia played and won Panama.
Yes, they won Panama, and they're still a very good team. So all Ghana needs to do is get a draw, and then that's it. They'll finish second behind England.
Would they play the same formation by just defending?
I don't know, but if that gets you results, I mean, knowing fully well that a point will be enough, why not?
Because Ghana had some good players on the bench.
They have
some good
players,
England.
But it's the tactics. Against England, you can't come and play all the way out. England is a better team than Ghana in terms of skills, in terms of talent. So they utilize where their strength is, and that is to defend, and that's what competition is all about. You make best use of your strength, and that's what Ghana did. Carlos Correa's tactics really work against England. Against obviously Uzbekistan, I mean their final match rather would be a whole different game. But as far as I'm concerned, what they did against England was the way forward.
Okay, now quickly, let's talk about where we are broadcasting from. Senegal. Is there any hope?
Well, there is still hope, but I will have to be honest with you. It's really, really slim. And unfortunately, there is some bad news coming from the Senegalese camp because Senegal have been dealt with a major blow ahead of their final Group I match with keeper Edouard Mendy ruled out through injury. The Senegalese Football Federation says Mendy suffered a left knee injury during the defeat to Norway and will now miss the crucial clash against Iraq.
Well, there are some matches to look forward to. Watching about 30 minutes from now or so.
Absolutely, there are some matches that we are looking forward to watching this evening. Like you said, 30 minutes from now, for example, Switzerland will take on Canada, one of the host countries, and we are talking about the round 3 of World Cup matches. They begin this evening. Okay. So Canada will take on Switzerland, and Bosnia-Herzegovina will be one of the teams, and they will take on Bosnia. And then you have Brazil taking on Scotland. That promises to be a very interesting game, I must say. Yeah. But of course, Brazil will be the favorites. And of course, Morocco, Africa's biggest hope, I would say, they will take on Haiti. They've already secured qualification, but they just have to show that we are here to show what we can do.
Thank you, Sankule, for the latest in the sporting world. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening. Special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Ju for the technical support. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.